So, a dip is what you do with the drips. You let them pour and you scrape them into the middle. And this is rather interesting because we've got two sets of stuff. Obviously you can't do a dip until you've been painting for a bit, because you don't have any paint drips if you haven't been painting for a bit. Yes, so generally speaking, I would then pour more paint in here. And maybe some white. And that is hopefully enough. And I'm going to pop some air bubbles that are there because I can see them from here.
They're quite large.
Yes, those two are quite large. Okay, then we get paint all over my yeah, pass that to me. We don't want to get paint all over my butane torch, that would make it stop working. So we take this, we knock the butane torch over. Butane torch out of the way. No, just there is fine. And we measure that and say, oh, there's not quite enough paint.
Will it spread when you put it down though?
Yes, but I want to make sure that it gets all the corners because it won't spread that much.
Okay.
There's definitely air bubbles in the ultramarine blue because I have a tendency to shake it. Right, so that should be sufficient. So you drop it in and then you press down and you move it around a little bit and you hope that no air has been trapped. And then you lift it up and you get something fabulous.
Oh, how nice.
I do like that.
It looks really pretty. I really like
Dips.
the bubbles.
Dips tend to have more bubbles, probably because, I don't know, because you're squishing it and there's air or something. And a clean toothpick. Is there a clean toothpick somewhere? Oh, well, there's a clean-ish toothpick. See, that one is a bubble that goes right down to the bottom, and so is that one. Can't see if there are other ones. Is that a bubble or is it gunk? Anyway, I think I will just see if I can tilt it a little bit this way so that it's more diagonal. That. I like that. And there are still air bubbles, and it's dripping. Did I mention there are a lot of air bubbles in dips?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Oh, it's looking really cool.
Okay, I think I will stop it there. Hello everyone, we have a dry painting here. Now this was the first of the dips in that session, and I am quite pleased with it.
Me too.
I really like how the structure goes like this, all the way to the corner.
Well, you purposely made it that
I
way.
purposely made it that way, yes, because it was coming like here, and then I sort of tilted it so that it was more close to the corner. And I really like this white yellowish line here that also, you know, divides it into the dark and light.
I really like the texture, how it sort of is separated like that.
That's commonly called lacing, particularly this visual effect, because it may be, I'm not entirely sure whether it is physically different from cells or whether just visually different from cells. I'm not entirely sure. But lacing is where you have one colour over another colour with sort of thin lines joining it, which are, and you see that here. That's definitely lacing.
Yes.
That looks like lacing, which is usually called lacing, but it's also full of little microcells. So I call it microcells or lacing. So,
and there's a lot of bubbles there.
Yes, that is very nice, and that is very nice, and that is very nice, and so is that, and that is quite interesting, and I really like this bit.
So the white
and this too
makes a big contrast against the dark color.
Yes, and this little wiggly bit is so cute. But it's also interesting, again we have a case where the dark parts are so dark that you find it hard to distinguish the colours in it.
Well, here, is it that the yellow is on top, but you can still see the dark parts underneath?
Yeah, the yellow is another case of a transparent paint. So even though this yellow was on top, there was also this purple underneath it, so that you can see it through the yellow. So yes, most of the time I don't pay attention to whether a paint is transparent or not, and sometimes, well, in this case it's a, oh yes, I wasn't thinking of that, but that is why. And sometimes there has been cases when I have deliberately done something with transparent paints and white in order to try to get something that looked more pastel-y. So I am quite pleased with this.
I'm quite pleased with it too.
So hooray! And it's completely dry because it was a dip and therefore the paint was thinner. So I can take this off. And why is the paint thinner when it's a dip? Because only enough paint sticks to the painting
when you pull it up.
You pull it up. Because with the other things, you're pouring it onto the painting Whereas this one you're pulling the painting away, which means you've got just the amount of paint that will stick instead of a thick layer that's poured on. I think that's why.
So see, you made a wooden platform and then you glued a transparent thing to it.
Yes.
So you could stick sticky tape on it and peel it off real easily, I'm guessing.
Yes, but then I discovered that that wasn't actually necessary.
Oh.
So some of the later ones are just wood. Because the sticky tape will stick to the wood and peel off just as easily because it's masking tape. So, whereas what you may have noticed with that one is that I stuck the acetate down with hot glue and some of it's not sticking anymore. So here we go. Scrape the edges. Oh, come on, that's got to... Come on, come on. I very much like my Mark III platforms because my Mark II platforms, not all of them were exactly A5 size, and what I found was that when the platform closely matches the paper on it, you have less
skin to peel off.
Stuff stuck to the edges, because it's the edge of the painting is the edge of the platform, so
it pours right off.
It pours off instead of puddling on the sides, so that is a happy improvement. Yay! Now I don't know what I'm going to call this, and I don't know what it makes me think of except ametrine.
Ametrine?
Ametrine is a semi-precious stone which is a mix of amethyst and citrine. Amethyst is purple and citrine is yellow. So, you know, so the colours are making me think of that. The shape is not making me think of that. But I'll think of something eventually.